Good morning. Denise Dryden. I'm out here on Bainbridge Island doing my Sunday morning presentations. And today I wanted to talk about shadow work because we are in Scorpio season, which means that from October 22nd to November 22nd, we go into Scorpio. And Scorpio is this deep dive into the emotions that we can set free. And it's the perfect time for me to do shadow work. And it's also the perfect time in our culture to do shadow work because it's an introspective process and you know, anyone can do it and it can lead to a more fulfilling life. I mean, it sounds like you want me to go down there and figure this out. And it's like, yeah, because when you do, you open up greater authenticity, creativity, emotional freedom. You know, like your heart just opens and life becomes so much more real and you have the ability to grow. So when we bring these parts of our unconscious into the consciousness, we bring them up when we start working with them. You know, what we're doing is we're using a very gentle, but yet fierce. So gentle and fierce compassion, and we're moving in and we're holding something and we're bringing it to the surface, okay? So why shadow work? Why now? And what is the shadow? So the shadow is really those hidden parts of ourselves that we never wanted to really deal with, or we didn't know how to deal with, or they've been there for so long we don't even know that they're there, right? So a shadow might be the way that we get angry all of a sudden, the way that we hold constant worry and fears about what's going to happen in life, the way that we have thoughts that kind of disturb us, like, oh man, one of the examples he uses is, you know, I have these fantasies about other people. It's kind of like, well, yeah, we all have fantasies, right? I guess we get to choose as to what we're going to do with those, but at least we know that they're there. They're deep, they're old, they can be unpleasant, they could be negative, right? But at the same time, they're emotions. And so we have a lack of awareness of what those emotions are. And when we don't have any awareness of what they are, then they kind of come up and they surprise us and they take us on. They leak out when we don't want them to. They affect who we are and what we do. And they also they're hidden and they're pushed down, and we're always hiding them down because we're ashamed of them. And so whether this is because of our family, because of our culture or societal influences, we sort of end up pushing these down. And so when we're going to do shadow work, it takes some very specific tools, and tools that we've all been working on so much right now. We've been working on tools, especially during 2020, tools of courage, of wisdom, of perspective. We've been sort of putting pieces together. We have lots of quiet time. So now our experiences are starting to talk to us like, oh, this, and this. These are all starting to fall into place. We use laughter. We have to use laughter. We have to use kindness when we do shadow work. And it's work that deals specifically with transformation. It's the most beautiful work. So Carl Jung, who's a Swiss psychologist, he also worked with tarot cards a lot and worked with the archetypes of them. He said that, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And I agree with him that this shadow work is the opportunity to go find out all the components of who you are. So why now? And that makes sense to me because, you know, it's kind of like we've always known shadow work is there. As a coach, I've worked with family systems that are in really dramatic stages of pain, whether, you know, it usually takes a lot for a family to decide to move a child out of the home into wilderness or into a therapeutic boarding environment where there's counseling help and there's schooling help and all of that. So when I'm working with these therapeutic programs, what I notice is that the shadow parts of ourselves affect the child. The things that we don't know about us affect the child. And the child is the one who's acting out, right? The child's the one who's like, rah, I don't like this. This is what's going on. I don't like the way this family works with me on this level or on this level. Or they take it on personally, right? So what I've gotten, that's great. What I was able to do in the last 2 decades working with family systems is to witness how beautifully the entire family opens. The system opens and shifts into a parent who's more relaxed about themselves and more able to share who they are and what is going on. So it makes it okay for the child to share what's going on. So this work is fabulous, right? So part of what I've seen parents do is that they freed up anxiety. They freed up judgment, depression, anger. It also can lead to things like insomnia, autoimmune, diseases in the system. These are all things that when we're constantly pushing down something that's pushing up at us, right? It takes all of our energy, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, to hold these stories down, and our body starts to show the symptoms. So I brought a couple of tarot cards here. This one is in the Crowley deck, and it's the Death card. And what it is it's a skeleton with a scythe, and he's cutting these strings, these anchors that have kept some of these old pieces down at the bottom of the floor, the ocean floor, and he's cutting them. Now, the reason I like this card is that when he cuts them, he releases all of these bubbles of light up into the surface. So this is courageous work. It's a little dark as far as a card. It's the Death card, and death in tarot doesn't mean someone's going to die. Death means that you end the things, you release the things that no longer serve you. You die to your old ways, right? And the other part that I liked is that when I go to the Osho Zen deck, what you have is a person who is going through their work, and they're addressing all of these stories. And then you see the burning phoenix on the other side. And this card is called transformation. So, when we look at what's possible with these 2 cards in Scorpio season, that's what we're here to do right now. So I've got some tools for you. Some tools that when we're conditioned and when we're trying to fit into a certain mold, when our family systems aren't working, when our personal relationship with ourself isn't working, that this is the time. This is the time now to go. So as we're exploring some of the ways that we've been, especially patriarch is up under consideration right now. We're looking at institutions, we're looking at conditioning, we're looking at imprinting. So in 2020, as we delve into some of this shadow work, what we do is we free up energy to create something new. It's fabulous. So a lot of this today came from the inspiration of Russell, who has a YouTube site called Wrestling Around. He does tarot readings, and he's fabulous. He's absolutely fabulous. And he laid out a reading on a practical path for shadow work that I've sort of tweaked and played with within the structure of the coaching I do. And I laid out the steps that were inspired by Russell's work. So the first thing, when we decide to do shadow work, is we go, number 1, I have inner turmoil. I have something that just keeps eating at me, that just keeps making it hard for me to be who I am, right? So what we do is we identify where we're bumping into this in our world, where we're hitting walls, where with ourselves, with others. Parts of yourself that you're struggling with, where there's worry, where there's anger, where there's thoughts in your heads, where there's reactions. Reactions of flaring up and shutting down systems. So once we know that there's this trigger, I've talked a lot about triggers, and there's this inner turmoil. It's kind of like, oh, shoot, I know that's there. So now what we want to do is we want to go there. We want to set the intention, and we want to go there. Whether we set a timer and say for the next 3 hours this afternoon, it's, I don't know about other parts of the country here. It's the coldest day in Washington I've been in a long time. In Montana, where I used to live, I think it's 3 degrees and there's inches of snow on the ground. So you're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. You might as well set this intention and do the dive. You can set a timer. You can even have like something fun that you want to do on the other end in a couple of hours. But you want to sit down and you want to go there. You get some paper. You get some supplies. For me, I get some tea, and I go. And so I ask myself a question like, God, this reaction, this anger that keeps coming up, I want to go there and I want to listen to it and I want to witness it. And then I want to look at it with the truest eyes I can, which is, oh, it always comes up around this. And then you kind of go, you peel that back and you go down to the next level. You peel it back and you go down to the next level. Because really what you're doing is you're doing the deep dive, right? Until you get to the place where you go, yeah, I know what that is. And you can sort of laugh at it or you can nurture it. But the idea is to find the story that comes from and to unburden yourself from it, right? To unburden what that means for you. It's really an important concept, is that we're going to find the story and then we're going to unburden it. And there's ways that we do that, right? Okay, so the next one, number 2. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Number 2 is that what we're going to do is we're going to find out what emotions are there. We're going to identify the emotions, whether there's sadness, there's shame, there's embarrassment, there's longing. You know, what is it that you feel when you get down there and you're holding this story of something that happened, something that you know, and you start to feel the language of it in your body. Your stomach clenches in, your shoulders sag, you get tears in your eyes, you know, and you open up that area of your body. And I'm going to call this the frequency, right? So you open up the frequency of where that is. And you're like, wow, this is big, this is deep, and this is where I have always been afraid to go, right? So there's this frequency, and it's a sound or it's a vibration. And then you hold that frequency. You take that emotion and you broadcast it out shamelessly. You broadcast it out happily, like, this is what I feel like when I'm in this spot. And you get used to putting those vibrations, those frequencies of those emotions right out there so that you can witness it and you can feel it and you can see it. Okay? So what we do is we go after the emotions, we find them, and then we feel them and we emit them from our body. Number 3, we want to clear this frequency as much as we can of any debris that doesn't work for us anymore. This is the key. This is the frequency that exists in you. It's always there. It's just now we want to get to know it. So I don't always do personal stories on here, but I'm gonna give you an example of mine, one of mine. I have when I was about 4, my mother had a profound loss. And what she felt, was incomparable. And she went inside and she isolated and she just disappeared. And I felt alone. I felt scared. I was 4. My mother was present, but not present at all. So when I went into that dive and I felt that frequency, it's a deep soul sadness. Like, I don't know where my mom went. It was really scary. And it's almost like there's this child moan inside of me. It's really low. And it's like, oh, it was a really scary time. It was a really hard time. And when I can feel that, I think you can hear it in my voice. I can go there and I can emit the frequency of that pain. And I can look at any child in the eye, any parent in the eye who knows this pain, and my frequency talks with them. So I can feel it, I can recognize it in another. It adds a spectrum of another frequency to my world. You know, I might have this one, I might have this one, I might have this one, but when I go and I add this lower one, this, which is where that really deep pain resides, I go, oh, well, of course. And then I sort of hold this little inner child, and I'm like, well, of course that was scary. Of course that was sad. And I transform it into, oh, look what you can do now. I can meet people in that spot. Okay? So number 4 is that we embody it. We embody it. We hold that frequency and we look at the world through those eyes. When I hold that deep frequency of the scared, alone child, I can see places all over the world where it talks to me, where I can connect to it. And then I look at, what do I notice? Where am I aligned with this? Where can I manifest and create things from that place? And I'm holding this frequency in my body. I've got my feet on the ground. I'm alive, I'm awake, and I'm holding this frequency. That's what embodiment is. And that's the purest form of self-love that I know. That this is where that self-love, that compassion is just so beautiful. It's right here. It's that acceptance. And the more of these frequencies that we hold and we exude, that's our sovereignty. That's who we are. It's like we're our own little musical notes, right? Number 5, we expand. We expand. We explore. We go take ourselves on walks and we look at time and places and people and situations where this frequency is, and then we expand it and we hold it. Expand, hold, expand, hold. To the point where, like, I can take the ferry over to Seattle or get on the light rail from Seattle up to the University of Washington, and I can sit on the train and I can feel that vibration. And I go, wow. It's a lot sadder out here than I thought it was. And I can feel the pain. And I also understand it. It doesn't overwhelm me. It's a frequency that I've expanded within myself. So, like, you know, when we're upset, when we're listening to a friend, when we're doing our own self-care, we expand this, which is like sometimes I'm putting lotion on my legs after the shower, on my hands or on my arms, and I'm just like, ooh, this is who we are. And I stay in that expanded frequency because I'm teaching myself how to be in that frequency without being afraid. Number 6, we notice. We notice what happens in the world when we free something up like that, when we let go of something that's been coming up all the time, is that we see new perspectives. We see, we start living outside of a constricted box. It's no longer just these 2 or 3 frequencies. We have a whole lot more creativity. We have a lot more perspectives. And then that's where we try food and new music and new movies. And we go on walks, we take vacations to different places, and we look at where these frequencies lie. And so what we're doing is we're expanding these frequencies everywhere we go with confidence, with self-love. So that's the beauty that I see in doing shadow work, okay? So to bring this to a close, what we do is we repeat. As soon as you get one frequency, you go, well, now that I get that one, I think I need another one. Let's go get another frequency, because there's always these different ones inside of our body that can become that greatest adventure that you've ever done in your entire life. You know, you don't have to book a trip to Europe. You don't have to kayak up in Alaska. You don't have to rent a van and go down to the Oregon coast. What you can do is go do that deep dive and discover an entirely new world within yourself. So the thing that I love about doing shadow work is that sensitives and empaths are readers. Yet it's a hidden skill, and it's often scorned by classrooms, teachers, parents, even siblings. It's kind of like, you know, it's like the hidden skill. I can see stories. I can see your pain. I can see your shadow, and you can't. And their gift is to illuminate our biggest block, right? So we have all of these young kids who can sort of read us, and we can't even see ourselves, right? And we're like hitting the wall, hitting the wall, hitting the wall. So when we turn on all of our frequencies, what we do is we meet them in those sort of rainbow frequencies where they are, and we give them hope. We give them a reality that, yeah, I see you, and this is powerful work that you're doing. So what we do is we validate these young children that are coming in who are so open in all of their frequencies. When we do our own work on ourselves and we open up these frequencies, we create a new system of living that is for ourselves. Yes, of course, it changes everything for us, but it changes everything for our children, and it changes everything for our children's children, and it goes up the generations into our parent and down the generations into our grandchildren. It goes through the lineage lines. And so this is our greatest gift. It's our most challenging, yet it's our most rewarding, and it does nothing but give us opportunity after opportunity. So this is what I was called to do today, was to go down and show the shadow. So I hope you enjoyed it, because there's this last piece, which is when the pieces start to fall together. It's a beautiful card. It's like, oh, I feel whole. I'm not afraid of anything when I can take care of this shadow stuff. So have a good Sunday, and I will see you next week. And you can find me on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com. Take care. Bye-bye.